Imagine finding out the speed limit on a dangerous winding road is strictly 55, but realizing you were unknowingly driving at 128 the day you crashed.
I mean, yeah, that is a terrifying thought.
Right, and that's exactly what happened to Elton. So today in our deep dive, we're looking at a deeply personal warning letter he sent to his brothers after he had a stroke.
Because he basically distilled all this cutting-edge cardiology into this massive wake-up call that could genuinely save your life.
Exactly. So I'm just going to read his exact words right now, straight from the letter. Let's see. He starts by saying, I am about halfway through the 17-hour audiobook version of Outlive. The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia, MD Attia, is highly focused on keeping LDL below 55 and its big brother ApoB between 20 and 40. I have also studied this extensively in the last 2 years, and I'm convinced that had my LDL been managed at these levels, I would not have had a stroke. My LDL-C was 128 the day of my stroke. On your blood work, it's labeled LDL-C.
Wow, 128. That's high.
Yeah. Then he says, Attia admits that reaching this almost always requires a statin, and often a fairly high dose, frequently paired with another cholesterol-lowering drug.
Yeah.
Eating a mostly plant-based diet can help, and taking amla capsules, Indian gooseberry, may also help. But diet and amla alone can rarely get you below 55.
Right, which is a really tough reality check for a lot of people.
Definitely. He goes on, the good news is that the statin I used, Crestor, is ridiculously cheap and safe. Unfortunately, the other drug that I needed is a miracle drug called Repatha, a PCSK9 inhibitor. It's definitely not cheap, but it successfully took my LDL down to 29.
Which is a massive drop.
It really is.
Yeah.
Let me finish up his letter here. He writes, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association have updated their guidelines, finally calling for LDL levels below 55 for all high-risk individuals. We three are all at high risk. Dad's cardiovascular disease, my stroke, and the fact that I carry a genetic variation called lipoprotein A, or LPA, which causes a very high-risk type of LDL. Since I carry this genetic marker, Dad probably did, and you may as well. You only need to test for LPA once in your life, as it's purely genetic. So in summary, get your LDL below 55 and your ApoB between 20 and 40. This will inevitably require you to work with your doctor, and many physicians are still not up to date on these stricter guidelines. Be assertive so you can avoid the stroke I had or the series of heart attacks that Dad had.
I mean, hearing those numbers out loud, like 128 versus a target of 55, it's just jarring.
It really is.
And the frightening part of his whole crash analogy is that it was entirely preventable, if his doctors had updated their speed limits to match the current guidelines. Because the ACC and AHA actually do call for LDL under 55 for high-risk patients now.
Okay, but wait, before we get too far into the guidelines, I really need to understand some of the terminology he used in that letter. Like he mentions getting LDL below 55, but then he calls ApoB its big brother with a target of 20 to 40. What exactly is ApoB, and why is he tracking it alongside LDL?
So the best way to think of it is think of LDL cholesterol as the passengers and ApoB as the actual car carrying them through your bloodstream.
Oh, okay, so it's the vehicle.
Right, exactly. And the actual damage happens when those cars crash into your artery walls. So measuring ApoB tells us exactly how many of those dangerous cars are on the road.
Which I'm guessing is a better predictor than just counting the total number of passengers.
You got it. It's a much more accurate predictor of heart disease.
Okay, that makes sense. But then he also zeroes in on that specific genetic variation, lipoprotein A or LPA. He explicitly tells his brothers they only need to test for it once in their life. Why just once? Like, what makes this different from the standard cholesterol panels we all get every year?
Well, because LPA creates this highly sticky, really dangerous type of LDL particle, and it is entirely hardwired into your DNA.
Wow.
Yeah, your levels literally do not fluctuate based on what you eat or, how much you exercise. You are born with a certain amount, and it basically stays constant forever.
Wait, really? Not at all?
Not at all. Which explains the tragic link between the father's heart attacks and Elton's stroke. It's just this invisible, inherited risk.
But I mean, jumping straight to expensive heavy-duty drugs like Repatha seems a bit extreme, doesn't it? Because Elton mentions eating a plant-based diet and taking those amla capsules. Can't you just eat better and fix this without medical intervention?
You'd hope so, but the math simply doesn't work for high-risk individuals. Because things like LPA are driven by genetics, lifestyle changes barely make a dent in those specific numbers.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, that's the sobering medical reality he discovered. Diet and amla might help marginally, but they just won't get you from 128 all the way down to 55.
So you really do have to intervene medically. And he mentions two routes. Crestor, which he says is cheap and safe, And then this miracle drug, Repatha. What is a PCSK9 inhibitor actually doing that a standard statin isn't?
Well, they attack the problem from completely different angles. So statins like Crestor work by reducing the amount of cholesterol your liver produces in the first place.
Okay, so stopping production at the source.
Right. But a PCSK9 inhibitor like Repatha is a totally different beast. It essentially flags your liver to rapidly vacuum existing LDL directly out of your bloodstream.
Oh, wow. So that dual approach is how Elton plummeted his LDL all the way down to 29.
Exactly. Which really brings us to his final plea. He tells his brothers to be assertive because, honestly, many doctors aren't up to date on these stricter guidelines from the American College of Cardiology.
Yeah, that part really stood out to me.
I mean, medical consensus often moves at the speed of a glacier, and your health cannot afford to wait for average clinical practice to catch up to the latest science. You really have to be your own advocate rather than waiting for someone else to flag a problem.
So take out your phone and look up your LDL-C levels. It's probably hidden in the blood test called lipid panel. And if it's above 55, and certainly if it's above 70, send a note to your doctor or schedule an appointment with them.
This is part of a series called Elton's Health Hacks. Please follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, or YouTube for the latest health tips. And the name of the series again is Elton's Health Hacks. This explainer is just meant to break down Elton's research and his personal experience. You absolutely need to consult with your own physician before making any changes to your healthcare routine.